Welcome, and take a deep breath as you settle in. Today, we're going to explore something that many of us struggle with, remembering the names and faces of people we meet. Maybe you've walked away from a conversation only to realize moments later that you can't recall the person's name, or perhaps someone smiles at you, and you know you've met them before but your mind draws a blank. I want you to know this isn't your fault. Our brains weren't designed to effortlessly remember every single detail we encounter, especially names and faces. In fact, scientists call this the tip of the tongue phenomenon, and it happens to everyone. The good news is that there are clear, practical techniques to help you stop forgetting and start remembering with confidence. Let's begin by understanding why this happens. Names are unique identifiers, often abstract and disconnected from the context of the person. Your brain struggles because a name doesn't inherently carry meaning. It's not like remembering that someone loves dogs or has bright blue eyes. Faces, on the other hand, carry visual information that your brain is very good at processing. The challenge is linking the abstract name to the visual memory in a way that sticks. Research in cognitive psychology shows that memory works best when it's connected to emotion, context, and sensory experience. This means that with the right approach, remembering names and faces can become a natural and almost effortless habit. Start by observing the person fully when you first meet them. Notice the small details, the shape of their face, the way their eyes move, their hairstyle, or a small gesture they make. Don't just hear the name, see it in action. If they introduce themselves as Sarah, imagine the letters of her name forming softly in your mind as you look at her. Feel the sound of it, repeat it once in your mind, and try to associate it with something distinctive. Maybe she has a warm smile, or a unique laugh, or she mentions she likes gardening. By linking the name to a visual or emotional cue, you give your brain a hook to hang the memory on. Now, use the power of repetition gently, but in a meaningful way. Instead of silently repeating the name over and over, try incorporating it into conversation naturally. It's great to meet you, Sarah. How long have you been gardening? By using the name immediately, your brain starts to strengthen the connection between the sound of the name, the face, and the context. Studies have shown that active retrieval, using information rather than just reviewing it, dramatically improves memory retention. Each time you recall the name, even for a second, you're reinforcing the neural pathways that store it. Another effective technique is creating a vivid mental image. This is where your imagination becomes a memory tool. Picture Sarah holding a large sunflower in her hands while you remember her name. The stranger the image, the more memorable it becomes. Our brains respond to unusual, funny, or emotionally charged images much more strongly than ordinary ones. Imagine this as a playful exercise. Every new name is a small story, a tiny mental movie where the person is the main character. You'll notice how easily this technique embeds the memory, almost like the name and face become inseparable in your mind. Consider also the method of linking the person to someone or something familiar. Perhaps Sarah reminds you of a friend with the same name, or she wears a scarf similar to one your sister owns. Associating new information with existing knowledge gives your brain a reference point, making retrieval easier. Psychologists call this associative memory, and it's one of the most reliable ways to stop names from slipping away. Imagine walking into a room full of people, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, your mind calmly connects each face to a familiar image, story, or sensation. Pay attention to your environment when you meet people. Our memory is context-dependent, meaning we recall things better when we notice the setting and circumstances. If you meet Sarah at a cozy coffee shop, observe the smell of coffee, the ambient music, and the warmth of the light. These sensory details become cues for your memory. Later, when you try to recall her name, bringing these sensory elements to mind can trigger the memory almost automatically. You can practice this consciously, by taking a subtle mental snapshot of the scene and linking it to the person's face. Practice also involves gentle reflection after meeting someone. Instead of rushing to the next conversation, take a moment to silently review who you met, their name, and one detail about them. Sarah, gardening, sunflower. Repeat this quietly in your mind as you move on. This isn't obsessive repetition, it's a calm, intentional habit of reinforcing memory. Over time, you'll notice that your ability to retain names improves, because the act of reflection strengthens neural pathways in the brain responsible for recall. It's important to acknowledge the role of attention in memory. Often, forgetting names and faces happens not because our memory is weak, but because we weren't fully present when meeting someone. Multitasking, daydreaming, or rushing through introductions makes it much harder to encode new information. Try this now. The next time you meet someone, pause for a moment. Notice the texture of their handshake, the tone of their voice, or the way they laugh. This focused attention not only helps you remember their name but also makes your interaction more genuine and meaningful. Another powerful method is verbal association through sound or rhythm. Some people naturally remember names by linking them to rhymes or alliterations. For example, Sarah with the sunflower, or Mark who loves the park. These playful sound connections engage a different part of your brain and make the name easier to retrieve later. You can experiment with these small, creative techniques and find which patterns resonate most with you. Over time, this becomes an intuitive skill, almost like giving your memory a playful workout. A subtle, yet effective, strategy is to use body language as memory reinforcement. When you hear the name, subtly nod or make eye contact. Your brain associates physical cues with the memory, creating a multisensory experience that strengthens recall. Neuroscientists have found that combining visual, auditory, and kinesthetic inputs can significantly improve memory retention. So, by simply acknowledging the name physically and mentally, you are giving your memory multiple pathways to anchor the information. Studies also show that storytelling can enhance memory. People remember names more easily when connected to a mini-story or a narrative. Think about the brief conversation you had with Sarah and turn it into a story in your mind. Maybe she mentioned planting a sunflower and feeling the warmth of the sun in her garden. By narrating these small moments, you're not only remembering a name, but you're also embedding it in a rich, meaningful context. The story becomes your mental bookmark. Now, let's explore some advanced exercises that will help these techniques become second nature. One powerful practice is the mental walk method. After meeting new people, close your eyes for a moment and mentally walk through the space where you met them. Visualize each person you interacted with, notice their expressions, their gestures, and softly repeat their names in your mind. Imagine placing each person on a mental map of the room, as if each face occupies a unique spot. This spatial memory technique strengthens the link between visual cues and names, making recall much smoother later on. Another effective exercise is called the story link chain. When you meet multiple people in a short time, create a small narrative linking them together. Perhaps you met Sarah, Mark, and Lila at a book club. In your mind, picture Sarah handing a sunflower to Mark, who then passes it to Lila. By connecting these individuals in a playful, imaginative story, you create a network of associations that your brain can easily navigate. This technique uses the brain's natural preference for patterns and narrative structures, making names stick far longer than simple rote repetition. You can also practice active recall in everyday situations. For example, when you see someone you met previously, try to recall their name before they introduce themselves again. Start with smaller interactions, like a barista or a neighbor, and gradually expand to social gatherings or professional meetings. Active recall, even in small doses, has been shown in research to enhance long-term memory retention. Each time you retrieve a name successfully, your brain strengthens the pathway, making it more automatic over time. Consider journaling your social interactions as another gentle exercise. At the end of each day, write down the names of people you met and one small detail about them. Perhaps you noticed that Sarah wore a sunflower brooch, Mark mentioned his favorite park, or Lila brought homemade cookies. This reflective practice not only reinforces memory but also improves your observational skills, helping you notice the subtle details that make faces and personalities memorable. It's important to remember that emotional engagement is a cornerstone of memory. People's brains remember experiences, feelings, and unique details far better than abstract data. When meeting someone, allow yourself to feel genuinely curious about them. Ask a question, notice their response, and connect with the interaction emotionally. Perhaps you feel warmth from a smile or amusement from a story. These emotions act like glue for your memory, anchoring names and faces in a way that mere repetition cannot achieve. Sleep also plays a surprisingly vital role. Neuroscience research shows that memory consolidation, the process where short-term memories solidify into long-term storage, occurs mostly during deep sleep. After meeting someone new, a restful night can significantly increase your chances of remembering their name the next day. This means that cultivating healthy sleep habits isn't just good for your body, it's essential for a sharp and reliable memory. If you want to go even further, practice visualization with exaggerated or humorous associations. Imagine the person's name as a bold, colorful sign hovering above their head, or picture them performing a quirky action that links to their name. Humor and exaggeration trigger the emotional centers of the brain, which strengthens retention. You can make this a playful habit, almost like a memory game, and you'll notice that names start to stick more naturally, without pressure. Another method is to focus on distinctive features rather than trying to memorize the entire face at once. Perhaps a person has a unique laugh, a dimple, or a certain posture. Focus on that detail and link it with their name. Over time, your brain begins to recognize and categorize faces based on these distinctive markers, making it easier to recall names even years later. Think of it as training your brain to notice the small, meaningful patterns that are easy to retrieve later. Consistency is key in all of this. Like any skill, memory improves with deliberate practice. You might find that at first, these techniques feel unusual or effortful. That's completely normal. But as you incorporate these strategies into your everyday interactions, they become natural. Imagine yourself attending a gathering in the future, confidently remembering everyone's names, engaging smoothly, and feeling present in each conversation. This vision is not far from reach, it's the result of patient, mindful practice. Real-life examples show the impact of these habits. Professionals who meet dozens of clients or colleagues often use these memory techniques instinctively, linking names with visual, emotional, or contextual cues. Actors, teachers, and leaders frequently report that small habits like mental imagery, repetition in conversation, and story linking make social interactions easier and more genuine. You don't need extraordinary talent, you just need consistent, intentional practice. Finally, let's touch on patience and self-compassion. Forgetting names isn't a flaw, and struggling with faces doesn't mean your memory is weak. It simply reflects the way the human brain processes abstract information. By practicing these techniques, you are training your brain to form stronger, more reliable connections. Notice how even small steps, repeated over time, lead to noticeable improvements. Every time you successfully recall a name, take a quiet moment to acknowledge your progress. Your brain is learning, adapting, and growing stronger with each interaction. So, here's a simple, actionable plan you can start today. First, when meeting someone, fully observe them and connect the name to a visual or emotional cue. Use their name immediately in conversation. Second, create mental images, small stories, or playful associations. Third, reflect after interactions, and practice recalling names actively. Fourth, incorporate sleep, focus, and mindfulness to strengthen consolidation. Finally, make it a daily habit, gentle and patient, and watch as remembering names and faces becomes an effortless part of who you are. Take a deep breath now and imagine yourself walking into a room filled with people you know and new faces alike. Notice how calm and confident you feel, effortlessly remembering names, smiling, connecting, and engaging. This is not a distant dream, it's a skill that grows with each mindful effort. Begin small, practice daily, and soon you'll notice that the anxiety of forgetting fades away, replaced by the satisfaction of genuine connection and a sharper, more reliable memory. Remember, every new interaction is an opportunity to exercise your brain, create meaningful connections, and cultivate presence. By paying attention, engaging emotionally, and practicing these techniques, you are not just remembering names, you are building stronger relationships, becoming more confident, and enhancing your brain's natural abilities. So, try this today, and notice how even one mindful interaction changes the way your brain stores and recalls information. Little by little, your memory improves, and your confidence grows. With gentle, consistent practice, the moment you meet someone new will no longer be a source of stress or embarrassment. Instead, it will be an opportunity for curiosity, connection, and growth. Your brain has incredible potential, and by applying these techniques, you unlock a skill that not only enhances memory but also enriches every social experience you have. Start now, with calm attention and small, playful exercises, and watch how quickly names and faces start to stay with you, naturally, effortlessly, and reliably. Thank you for taking the time to practice your memory with me today. Remember, every name you recall and every face you recognize is a small victory, a sign that your brain is learning and growing stronger. Be patient with yourself, stay curious, and practice these techniques gently each day. With consistency, remembering names and faces will become effortless, and your connections with others will feel more meaningful and natural. Take a deep breath, notice your progress, and step into your next conversation with confidence. Until next time, keep observing, keep imagining, and keep growing.